Let me get this straight. You blew up a building.
2 CIs and the CEO of 22andU.
2 competing federal agencies with the same mission.
I don't understand why those Fed a-holes are so darn mean.
To protect the public from the scourge of dangerous misinformation.
You know those bum idiots. This is all them. We had a solid case.
The word entrapment, not even in their vocabulary.
The explosives we provided were fake.
Sworn to a duty to always tell the truth.
We have no indication at this time that this was a deliberate act.
We're all being transferred.
To where?
The only place currently with openings. Alaska.
Good morning.
Welcome to the office, huh?
And we got the retro feel. You know, the funny about federal buildings, they're all different, but they're still somehow all the same.
Oh, good morning, Agent Walker. At the coffee station. We actually drew straws before he got here, and I won, so we get to work together.
Let's get started. Let's see if we can't stir something up.
Let's give it a minute. I like to warm up the truth muscles a little coffee beforehand.
Well, what do you want to do first?
What do we have for a surveillance van?
Oh, wow. I got a Ford Explorer. We don't have a surveillance van.
Do you put many cases here?
All right, we're going live. We're just going to jump right into it. Just going to dive into it. We got some breaking stuff going on right here that I just wanted to get into. So, the dog's freaking out today. Let's see what we got here. We have got a prisoner being released. Ben, no. Oh my God. Everybody's hormones are on crazy town. Well, Finney's hormones are on crazy town right now. The rest of it is hello. So I can't hear this. Hang on. Might help if I turn up the volume. There we go. Now we got volume. So this is Marc Fogel coming back to the United States from Russia, being released from Russia.
I'm not one bit of cold. I came from Russia. And you know what? Of the 10 letters, I got one from you as well.
So he had the same charges as old Brittany Griner, which was trying to bring marijuana into Russia. Looks like it's raining there, or maybe snowing, I can't tell. All right, that's good. Adjust the camera there a little bit because somebody's knocking it around, it seems. There we go. There's old Vader dog. Okay. What do we have going on here? Okay, they're walking into the reception area of the White House.
He's a happy guy.
He's a happy guy. I would be happy too if I was not in prison any longer. That always makes it better. Makes life a lot better when you're not in a Russian prison. I could see how that would make somebody happy. Then he decided that he needed the camera on him. I have no idea how that happened. He knocked the camera around.
Everybody
put
knows
it on
Mark.
him. So
He's become a very famous guy.
What do you do?
Very happy guy tonight. So it's just
I think you can
a real
really see
honor.
my trash
An honor to have you
can.
with us.
Whatever.
I feel like the luckiest man on earth right now. And
But if that's what Finney wants, that's what Finney gets, I guess.
I want you to know that I am not a hero in this at all. And President Trump is a hero. These men that came from the diplomatic service are heroes. The senators and representatives that passed legislation in my honor to get me home are
Nobody knows
the
yet.
heroes.
It was supposedly a swap, but we don't
I'm
know
in awe
what.
of what
We
they
don't know
all
what the
did.
other side was yet, which we haven't
My
heard
family
for some
has
reason.
been a force. I think my 95-year-old mother is probably the most dynamic 95-year-old on earth right now. And I am so indebted to so many people. I think I remember a Churchill quote that he said when the RAF was fighting the Luftwaffe, and he said that never have so many owed so much to so few. And I put myself, fortunately and unfortunately, into that category, and I said, never has one owed so much to so many, that this superorganism of people that came to my support and the love that I was given sustained me for 3.5 years in a prison that had me in hospitals for more than 100 days. I was given more than 400 injections in that time. And knowing I had the support of
All
my
right,
fellow
fix the camera there.
Pennsylvanians, my
Until
family,
Finney comes back and knocks it around again.
friends,
And he's got a clean
was
eyes.
so overwhelming that
Goofy dog.
it brought me to my knees and it brought me to tears. But it was my
Thank you to Right
energy, it
Side
was
Broadcasting
my
Network on YouTube.
being
It's
that,
what
that
we are
kept me
watching
going
right now.
that whole time, and I will forever be indebted to President Trump, to Steve over there. What a dynamic man this guy is.
That's true.
When I met him, the energy, the can-do attitude just exudes from his body. And when he smiled at me and introduced me, and I got the feel for what has happened, you know, it's not just me, it's everybody. And Secretary Rubio, who met my son a while back, I'm a middle-class school teacher.
Oh yeah, that's
Now,
Finn. He cleans everybody's eyes. Everybody.
In
In fact, he's had to be in the garage the
dream
last
world.
3 days.
We're going to show you the Lincoln bedroom. in a little
So
while.
he
It's a
I
very
haven't-
special place. Appropriate for tonight.
been put
Very
away,
appropriate.
let's say.
and
So- We've had a lack of eye cleaning the last few days.
thank you all. And I love our country. And I'm so happy to be back here. And
Very emotional time, yes. Very
I
emotional.
wish I could articulate it better.
You've done beautifully, and he's got a great mother. And when I saw the mother at a rally, she said, if you win, will you get my son out? And I promised. She's 95 years old. And I said, we'll get him out. And we got him out pretty quickly.
She told me that exact words.
I remember.
And,
She made quite an impression.
and you also did. And I'm in awe of what you've done and your team.
It's great to have you back.
Oh,
Gonna have a great life. Yes.
President, did you speak directly to President Putin about
Well, I don't
Mark?
want to say that. I just want to say that I appreciate very much what they did in letting Mark go home. And I appreciate Steve Witkoff, the job he did, and Marco behind the scenes was unbelievable. And so many of these people were unbelievable. They represent him. They're from his area. And we just wanted to get him back home. I had to get him back home.
Not going to give it up.
Because I would have had big trouble with his mother.
Big question.
And we're going to take him for a little tour of the Lincoln bedroom, which nobody gets to see, and it's very special. Do you want to see it?
I would love to. And I also should make mention that President Putin was very generous and statesmanlike in granting me a pardon. I mean...
What were the terms of this deal, Mr. President?
Very fair, very, very fair, very reasonable. Not like deals you've seen over the years. They were very fair. And I think that's going to lead, and somebody else is being released tomorrow that you will know of. But we wanted to get this done, very important. And Steve wanted to actually fly over and get Mark and get him home properly, because it could be a pretty tough trip.
So is this the beginning of a deal, sir? Is this the start of?
I think there's goodwill in terms of the war. You know, 1.5 million soldiers, young people have been killed.
I've met many of them.
Yeah, and it's a terrible thing going on. So we want to get that done. I think this could be the very important element. You could be a big part of it, actually, because it could be a big, important part of getting the war over with Ukraine. And we appreciate President Putin's what he did. He was able to pull it off for you, right? He was able to pull it off. We think, and you're here, so it was great.
So yeah, I guess we'll see who gets
we'll tell you a little
tomorrow.
bit more about it tomorrow, but I think we've made great progress on the war also. Getting the war, I want to get the war ended.
I'm sure there are other.
Should not have been. It would have never happened if I was president. It would not have happened. And it did happen, and now you have all blown up cities and dead
such
people.
That we have of Russians.
So many dead people. Should have never ever happened. And you could be a big catalyst for just this evening. It's a very important evening for ending that war, and I think they all want to see it ended.
Does that mean you gave assurances about Ukraine?
How does it change your perspective on Putin and your attitude?
Well, I don't want to get into that. I only can say this. We got a man home whose mother and family wanted him desperately, whose state wanted him. He's become a big symbol, and it's an honor to have played a small
share
role
in the bed
that.
now.
And
That's cute.
I want to tell you, these people, they all played a role, and we got him home, and he's healthy. He looks good, actually. To me, you look damn good. I'll tell you that.
I think when expectations are low, maybe that helps a little bit.
When you go kaplunk, right?
Benny, he's been stuck in the garage because his hormones are on peak.
I think I need a little bit of time to sort of digest.
He's enjoying
all of that.
his little bit of freedom.
There were times when it was extremely trying.
It is snowing in
times
DC.
When
that is
I
snow.
can manage it, but I think I need some more time to.
It
process it.
It wasn't easy, right? It wasn't easy.
Every second, every minute, every day had a challenge.
But you're in good shape. I mean, compare that to what we saw 2 days ago come home. They were very, very ill. Those people are very ill. They were treated really badly.
Mr. President, your predecessor left you almost $4 billion in unused aid for Ukraine. Are you going to use those money? Are you going to
we're going to
send
see, but my
weapons to
predecessor
Ukraine?
should have had this gentleman out a long time ago. You know, we did it in 2.5 weeks. He had 4 years to do it. He should have had Mark out a lot earlier. It's a shame. It's a shame.
It was very.
Should have never had the war to start off with. Should have never had that war. Would have never happened if I was president. But he should have had him back 3.5 years ago. So it was too bad, but he didn't do it. But we did it. Thank you all very much.
Quite a lot of snow actually in DC right now.
Is the typical tariff still come in tomorrow, or are you waiting until you need to vote?
We'll see what happens.
Have you spoken with President Xi?
Oh, is this? Wow. Okay. I had no idea we were getting snow and stuff right now. All right, everybody's filing out. And this was an hour ago, I guess, in Washington, D.C. And I guess it has actually stalled the vote for Tulsi Gabbard, so that's a bummer. All right. Well, hey, welcome. All right, we got it done. Yeah, no, exactly. So we'll see what the deal is tomorrow. That'll be interesting. We didn't know what the terms were. We weren't sure if it was a swap or if it was a singular deal. It didn't seem like it was possible that it wasn't a swap because we kept hearing the word swap, but we didn't know for sure if it was a swap or if it was a straight up, release. So we'll find out tomorrow. It'd be interesting to see who's on first. All right. What I haven't seen is this was it was Tulsi's, I guess Tulsi Gabbard's confirmation vote was tonight. And somebody had said that the vote to confirm Tulsi Gabbard, which was originally scheduled for tonight, has now been postponed due to the dusting of snow on the ground here in DC. So I guess we will have to wait till tomorrow, maybe. I don't know. All right. This bee is retreating. Poor Finn. Just getting stuck in the garage for the last few days because he can't stop being a goofball. All right. So this is what I wanted to see because I have not seen this yet. So this is Elon Musk, little X, and Donald Trump in the Oval Office. And this was kind of the first, and this is a 30-minute press conference, but this was the first remarks that we have seen from Elon Musk about this. So let's go ahead and start.
At a high level, if you say, what is the goal of DOGE and I think significant.
Now, his little X is a talker. He is all about the spotlight. And it's kind of funny. We'll see how this goes on. I know in the beginning here, he likes to talk a little bit, but because I did see the beginning of this, but
part of the presidency is to restore democracy. This may seem like, well, are we in a democracy? Well, if you don't have a feedback loop, okay, X, we would have to, if you
He is a cute kid. He is not shy. He is not camera shy at all.
All right. So, I tell you, gravitas can be difficult sometimes. If there's not a good feedback loop from the people to the government,
my goodness,
and if you have rule of the bureaucrat, if the bureaucracy is in charge,
yes,
then what meaning does democracy actually have? If the people cannot vote and have their will be decided by their elected representatives in the form of the president and the Senate and the House, then we don't live in a democracy. We live in a bureaucracy. So it's incredibly important that we close that feedback loop, we fix that feedback loop, and that the public's elected representatives, the president, the House, and the Senate, decide what happens, as opposed to a large unelected bureaucracy. This is not to say that there are good people who are in the federal bureaucracy, but you can't have an autonomous federal bureaucracy. You have to have one that is responsive to the people. That's the whole point of a democracy. And that's
the part of our, when we have elections and when the representatives change and when the presidency changes, the focus has to change. You can't just have one singular focus. And then, like I said last week, we saw all these early moves, and then now we're starting to see the judiciary weigh in. And I'm we'll get into this later, but I'm amazed by the reaction so far from everybody. Oh, really? Huh. I'll keep an eye on that. Okay. I keep going off, huh? All right, I'll keep an eye on that. But yeah, if now you've got the judiciary weighing in, and you've got these just like district judges that are trying to supersede the entire executive branch, and yeah, and I think it's going to backfire on them. I really do. All right, let's keep going.
If you looked at this, if you asked the founders today and said, "What do you think of the way things have turned out?" Well, we have this unelected, fourth unconstitutional branch of government, which is the bureaucracy, which has, in a lot of ways, currently more power than any elected representative. And this is not something that people want, and it's not. It does not match the will of the people, so it's just something we've got to fix. And then we've also got to address the deficit. So we've got a $2 trillion deficit, and if we don't do something about this deficit, the country's going bankrupt. I mean, it's really astounding that the interest payments alone on the national debt exceed the Defense Department budget, which is shocking because we spend a lot of money on defense. But and if that just keeps going, we're essentially going to bankrupt the country. So what I really want to say is, like, it's not optional for us to reduce the federal expenses. It's essential. It's essential for America to remain solvent as a country, and it's essential for America to have the resources necessary to provide things to its citizens and not simply be servicing vast amounts of debt.
And also, could you mention some of the things that...
Okay. Yeah, that. Everything he just said there makes absolute sense. It just does. It just makes sense that the deficit that we have right now is not sustainable. It's just not. We have a deficit which has been way out of control for years, and then 2020 and beyond really blew it up completely. So we have to, and a lot of that spending, we didn't stop that spending. We didn't stop a lot of the COVID spending, because once you start, that's the problem with Washington. Once you start a program, once you start spending, you don't ever stop it. It never stops. It never goes away. All right, keep going.
Your team has found some of the crazy numbers, including the woman that walked away with about $30 million,
right,
etc.
Well, we do find it sort of rather odd that
Another thing I wanted to mention too is keep an eye, watch through this as we go through this press conference, and we're going to see the reaction after this press conference. So what the engagement that we just saw right now was Elon talking for the first, we're 3 minutes into this, and it's pretty much been him talking the entire time. Then you had President Trump just now say, dog just knocked my shoe off. You had President Trump just now say, okay, talk about this. Talk about, and let's go back just a few seconds here.
Right.
Etc.
Well, we often...
The woman that things that your team has found, some of the crazy numbers, including the woman that walked away with about $30 million,
right,
etc.
So he's teeing up stuff that he wants Elon to talk about. So instead of talking about what he's uncovered and the things that he's doing and what he says in this conference, both CNN and MSNBC, their big takeaway was Elon Musk is usurping the power of the presidency, and he's the co-president, and Trump is annoyed by him. So keep an eye with that in mind, because CNN and MSNBC, nutty people on there, but anyway, both of them said that that was their takeaway from this press conference. Their takeaway from this press conference was that Donald Trump is scared of the power that Elon Musk has, I guess, would be one way to see it. And I've kind of got him saved, so we'll kind of watch what the reaction was. But just I not having seen the press conference, I wanted to kind of keep that in mind as I watch it to see, because the very first thing that happens is President Trump cues Elon Musk to talk about something. So,
well, I think
and I just, why did I do that? Okay, and I just went back to the beginning. We don't want to go back to the beginning. Okay, there we go.
People in the bureaucracy who have ostensibly a salary of a few $100,000, but somehow manage to accrue tens of millions of dollars in net worth while they are in that position.
This is a very valid point.
Which is, what happened to USAID. We're just curious as to where it came from. Maybe they're very good at investing, in which case we should take their investment advice, perhaps. But just there seems to be mysteriously they get wealthy. We don't know why. Where does it come from? And I think the reality is that they're getting wealthy at taxpayer expense. That's the honest truth of it. So, we're looking at, say,
I was curious what he was talking about there, and I know what he's talking about. He's talking about Samantha Power. He's talking about Samantha Power was the head of USAID. She has a like you said, she has a salary of about $130,000 a year. But she is worth about $30 million. So, I'm sure there's a completely valid reason for that. No, I don't know. Yeah, right. But we'll see. All right, so that's who he's talking about there. Okay.
If you look at, say Treasury, for example, basic controls that should be in place, that are in place in any company, such as making sure that any given payment has a payment categorization code, that there is a comment field that describes the payment, and that if a payment is on the do not pay list, that you don't actually pay it. None of those things are true currently. So the reason that departments can't pass audits is because the payments don't have a categorization code. It's like just a massive number of blank checks just flying out the building. So you can't reconcile blank checks. You've got comment fields that are also blank, so you don't know why the payment was made. And then we've got this truly absurd, a do not pay list, which can take up to a year for an organization to get on a do not pay list. And this, we're talking about terrorist organizations, we're talking about known fraudsters, known aspects of waste, known things that do not match any congressional appropriation. It can take up to a year to get on the list, and even once on the list is not used. It's mind-blowing. So what we're talking about here, we're really just talking about adding common sense controls that should be present, that haven't been present. So they say, like, well, how can...
Oh no, common sense controls? We can't do that. The bureaucracy. What about the bureaucracy? What about it? How can you do that to the...
Could such a thing arise? That seems crazy. When you understand that really everything is geared towards...
I just have to stop this occasionally and comment on it because, that whole copyright thing and everything. But yeah, no, I mean, this, how does this not make sense? How does what he is saying not make sense? I don't know. All right, keep going.
Complaint minimization. So then you understand the motivations. So if people receive money, they don't complain, obviously. But if people don't receive money, they do complain. And the fraudsters complain the loudest and the fastest. So,
and he mentioned, so there was a X Spaces the other night, like 2 weeks ago, actually, when they very first started this. Him and Joni Ernst and Mike Lee got on AX Space and Vivek at midnight on a Sunday, no less. Like midnight Eastern time. So it was 8 o'clock my time. So it was perfect. I got to watch it and not have to stay up super late. But so he got on there and talked about this. And one of the things he talked about was, I totally forgot what I was talking about. Hang on, let me go back.
They're playing the loudest and the fastest.
Okay, so yeah, the fraudsters. He started PayPal. So Elon Musk started PayPal. So the comments about, well, he has your personal information. Well, he had 100 million people's personal information when he had PayPal. I mean, he ran the original PayPal. It made a lot of money and he sold it off. So he had access to a whole lot of people's financial records and their other records. And that's what he talked about on PayPal, is when they found fraud and you shut off the payment of the fraud, the fraudsters are the ones that complained the loudest, right? And were the most egregious about it. So take that as you will when you're talking about people getting paid by the government. So, okay, continue.
So, then when you understand that, then it makes sense. Oh, that's why.
I'm gonna go get a water. I'll be right back.
Just they approve all the payments at Treasury, because if you approve all the payments, you don't get complaints. But now we're saying that no, actually we are going to complain if money is spent badly, if your taxpayer dollars are not spent in a sensible and frugal manner, then that's not okay. Your tax dollars need to be spent wisely on things that matter to the people. I mean, these things, like, it's just common sense. It's not draconian or radical. I think it's really just saying, let's look at each of these expenditures and say, is this actually in the best interest of the people? And if it is, it's approved. If it's not, we should think about it. So, there's crazy things like just cursory examination of Social Security, and we've got people in there that are 150 years old. Now, do you know anyone who's 150? I don't know. Okay. They should be on the Guinness Book of World Records. They're missing out.
Oh, I nearly spilled my water.
That's the case where, like, I think they're probably dead. It's my guess. Or they should be very famous.
Yeah. If we're still paying Social Security to people that are 150 years old, that is an issue. That is an issue. Hopefully in this, you'll be surprised. You're going to be shocked here when he talks about how people are actually processed when they retire from the government work, how that processing takes place. It's going to blow you away. I got that saved too. We're going to get into that.
It's one of the two. And then there's a whole bunch of Social Security payments where there's no identifying information. Well, like, why is there no identifying information? Obviously, we want to make sure that people who deserve to receive Social Security do receive it, and that they receive it quickly and accurately. I'll tell you another crazy thing. So, one of the things is, like, we are trying to sort of right-size the federal bureaucracy, just make sure that this, obviously there need to be a lot of people working for the federal government, but not as many as currently. So we're saying, well, okay, let's, if people can retire, with full benefits and everything, that would be good. They can retire, get their retirement payments, everything. And then we were told, this is actually, I think, a great anecdote, because we were told the most number of people that could retire possibly in a month is 10,000. Well,
I thought this when I saw this earlier, because I saw some people did some digging into this. And when I saw this, I thought, this has got to be a joke. This has got to be parody. Our government can't actually function this way. There's no way that this is real. There's absolutely no way that this is real, but it is. So 10,000 people a month are the most that can retire. And we'll get into why.
Well, why is that? Well, because all the retirement paperwork is manual on paper. It's manually calculated, then written down on a piece of paper. Then it goes down a mine. And like, what do you mean a mine? Like, yeah, there's a limestone mine where we store all the retirement paperwork. And you look at a picture of this mine. We'll post some pictures afterwards. And this mine looks like something out of the 50s because it was started in 1955. So it looks like it's like a time warp. And then the speed, the limiting factor is the speed at which the mine shaft elevator can move determines how many people can retire from the federal government. And the elevator breaks.
The speed of the elevator mine shaft is the determining factor on how many people can retire in a month. This is part of the mine right here.
Federal government. If you are a high compliance or high security need organization, this is the place to be. The Western Pennsylvania facility is a city underground. It has many of the same things that a city would have. It has fire and rescue teams.
Yeah. All right. Keep going because this is just too much. This is too funny.
Down and then sometimes, and then nobody can retire. Doesn't that sound crazy? There's like 1,000 people that work on this. So I think if we take those people and say, like, you know what, instead of working in a mine shaft and carrying manila envelopes to, boxes in a mine shaft, you could do practically anything else. And
I mean, it's not digitized. In order to retire from the federal government, here's another one. This is from the Department of Government Efficiency. This is directly from the DOGE, folks. And blow it up a little more. Federal employee retirements are processed using paper by hand in an old limestone mine in Pennsylvania. 700 plus mine workers operate 230 feet underground, process 10,000 applications for months. They are stored in manila envelopes and cardboard boxes, and the retirement process takes multiple months. Once you say, I'm going to retire from the government, it takes multiple months for your hand-processed paper to run through the mine. I have no idea. I mean, is this real life? Is this really real? And what the DOGE people are trying to do is controversial. This is somehow controversial. The fact that all of our retirement in the government is still processed on paper by hand in a mine is not controversial, but trying to get the government under control is controversial. It's insane.
You would add to the goods and services of the United States in a more useful way. So anyway, so I think that's an example. Like at a high level, if you say, like, how do we increase prosperity? Is we get people to shift from roles that are low to negative productivity to high productivity roles, and so you increase the total output of goods and services, which means that there's a higher standard of living available for everyone. That's the actual goal. Everyone's very quiet, by the way. So people normally this quiet?
Your detractors, Mr. Musk.
What?
Including a lot of Democrats.
I have detractors?
You do, sir.
I don't believe it.
Say that you're orchestrating a hostile takeover of government and doing it in a non-transparent way. What's your response to that criticism?
Well, first of all,
I don't. Why can't they use computers? That is a good question. And I don't know the answer to that. I don't know. I guess they tried. They tried like way back in the day, like during Reagan's first first term. They tried to bring it into the modern age, and they couldn't figure out how to do it or something. I don't know. Let me find that, because Reagan's, one of his first people actually came out and talked about this. So I'll dig that up while we're here watching here, because I'd like to know too why they can't use computers, why it can't be a digital thing. I don't know. That is the $1 million question right there.
You couldn't ask for a stronger mandate from the public. The public voted, we have a majority of the public voting for President Trump. We won the House, we won the Senate. The people voted for major government reform. There should be no doubt about that. That was on the campaign. The president spoke about that at every rally. The people voted for major government reform, and that's what people are going to get. They're going to get what they voted for.
Well, right, exactly. I'm like, who's in charge of that? That's the thing where, when you have this going on the whole time, well, this person, that person, this is the way we've always done it. Oh.
And a lot of times, that people that don't get what they voted for, but in this presidency, they are going to get what they voted for, and that's what democracy is all about.
Mr. Musk, the White House says that you will identify and excuse yourself from any conflicts of interest that you may have. Does that mean that you are in effect policing yourself? What are the checks and balances that are in place to ensure that there is accountability and transparency?
Well, we actually are trying to be as transparent as possible. In fact, we post our actions to the DOGE handle on X and to the DOGE website. So all of our actions are maximally transparent. In fact, I don't think there's been, I don't know of a case that where
I would think, no, so I think the one who can change it, especially that, is the DOGE people, right? Because the agency that is DOGE was actually the digital agency before, right? And so that agency was set up to bring the government up to a higher standard digitally on the entire, across the board. So this agency is actually, its initial thing was to get the government up to a more modern standard. And so I think DOGE is actually the agency to do it.
An organization has been more transparent than the DOGE organization. So, and the kind of things we're doing are, I think, very, very simple and basic. They're not, what I mentioned, for example, about Treasury, just making sure that payments that go out, taxpayer money that goes out, is categorized correctly, that the payment is explained, that organizations on the do not pay list, which takes a lot to get there, that actually are not paid, which currently they are paid. These are not individual judgment decisions. These are about simply having sensible checks and balances in the system itself to ensure that taxpayer money is spent well. So it's got nothing to do with, like, say, a contract for some company of mine at all.
But if there is a conflict of interest when it comes to you yourself, for instance, you've received billions of dollars in federal contracts when it comes to the Pentagon, for instance, which the president, I know, has directed you to look into.
Yeah.
Are you policing yourself in that? Is there any sort of accountability check and balance in place that would provide any transparency for the American people?
Well, all of our actions are fully public. So if you see anything, you say, like, wait a second, hey, Elon, that seems like maybe that's, there's a conflict there. It's not like people are going to be shy about saying that. They'll say it immediately.
Including you yourself.
Yes. But transparency is what builds trust, not simply somebody asserting trust. So not somebody saying they're trustworthy, but transparency, so you can see everything that's going on. And then you can see, am I doing something that benefits one of my companies or not? It's totally obvious.
And if we thought that, we would not let him do that segment or look in that area if we thought there was a lack of transparency or a conflict of interest. And we watched that also. He's a big businessman. He's a successful guy. That's why we want him doing this. We don't want a an unsuccessful guy doing this. Now, one thing also that Elon hasn't really mentioned are the groups of people that are getting some of these payments. They're ridiculous. And we're talking about billions of dollars that we've already found. We found fraud and abuse. I would say those two words as opposed to the third word that I usually use, but in this case, fraud and abuse. It's abusive because most of these things are virtually made up, or certainly money shouldn't be sent to them. And you know what I'm talking about. It's crazy. So, but we're talking about tens of billions of dollars that we've already found. And now a judge who's an activist judge wants to try and stop us from doing this. Why? Why would they want to do that? I campaigned on this. I campaigned on the fact that I said government is corrupt. And it is very corrupt. It's very, very, it's also foolish. As an example, a man has a contract for 3 months and the contract ends, but they keep paying him for the next 20 years, because nobody ends a contract. You got a lot of that. You have a contract that's a 3-month contract. Now, normally, if you're in a small, in all fairness, it's the size of this thing is so big. Yeah. But if you have a contract and you're in a regular business, you end the contract in 3 months. It's a consultant. Here's a contract for 3 months, but it goes on for 20 years. And the guy doesn't say that he got money for 20 years, They don't say it. They just keep getting checks month after month. And you have various things like that. And even much worse than that, actually, much worse. And I guess you call that incompetence, maybe. Yeah. It could be corruption. It could be deals made on both sides, where the guy gets the money, he kicks. I think there's a lot of kickback here. I see a lot of kickback here.
There's a lot of kickbacks.
Tremendous kickback, because nobody could be so stupid to give out some of these contracts. So he has to get a kickback.
So the DOGE service, I wanted to look it up. The DOGE office was initially the United States Digital Office, so USDS. And that was created to, the USDS acted as sort of a digital strike team to partner with federal agencies on targeted projects to improve software, websites, and technology infrastructure. So they renamed it. It's still the USDS, but now it is the US DOGE service. So it is a 18 months. It's supposed to be going to be going on for 18 months of cutting costs and streamlining government operations, which, obviously we really need some. And I have found some interesting articles here about the retirement system that we'll look at in a minute. So, but yeah, it is now the US DOGE service.
All right. So that's what I got elected for, that and borders and military and a lot of things, but this is a big part of it. And I hope that the court system is going to allow us to do what we have to do. We got elected to among other things, find all of this.
This is interesting, too. This right here. 2016 to 2020, President Donald Trump would not have said, the court system is trying to stop us. We're hoping that the court doesn't, will allow us to do this. If you've listened to what he is saying right here, it is so much more measured. Think about when he got a bad ruling in the past, and even while he was, while he was off the, not president and going through all of the legal troubles that he did. And so, and you listen to what he's saying now, the measured tone that he is taking. Now, Elon is saying a lot more, especially on X. But when I think he knows that they've got a plan, and in fact, they knew that this was going to happen too, that they were going to get rulings from some judges that really, really test the constitutionality of the judiciary. the Constitution is set up that, the Congress and the presidency and the Supreme Court are co-equal branches of government. A district judge or a circuit judge, whatever you want to call them, a federal judge in the very first portion of the thing is not part of the co-equal branches of government. Yes, they are the first line of checks, but there has to be something in constitutionality that they're looking at. And these are just saying the rulings so far are just incredible that a political appointee that has been approved by the Senate cannot have access to data of the agency that they have been approved for. What? How in any... And this was made by a singular district federal judge saying that a Senate confirmed cabinet member cannot have access to the data of the agency that they are Senate approved for. That is insane. That is an insane ruling. So I think he knows that they have a strong case, but I mean, this is not the bombastic attack the Judge Trump that we had in 2016 to 2020. It's just not. It's kind of it's an interesting difference between that and now. So, okay, let's continue.
Fraud, abuse, all of this horrible stuff going on. And we've already found billions of dollars, not like a little bit, billions, many billions of dollars. And when you get down to it, it's going to be probably close to $1 trillion. It could be close to $1 trillion that we're going to find. That will have quite an impact on the budget. And you'll go to a judge where they handpick a judge, and he has certain leanings. I'm not knocking anybody for that, but he has certain leanings. And
this is different. This is like, yeah. We can go back and look at some of the past statements about judges that Trump has made, just even while he was president and wasn't. And the measured tone that he has. I don't know if this is Susie Wheels. I'm thinking maybe his chief of staff has gotten a hold of him, and some of his legal team has gotten a hold of him, because this is different. This is way different than what we're used to.
He wants us to stop looking.
Absolutely different.
How do you stop looking? I mean, we've already found it. We have a case in New York where a hotel has paid $59 million. $59 million because it's housing migrants, illegal migrants. All illegal, I believe.
And they were being paid twice the normal room rate at 100% occupancy.
Unbelievable.
So it's a racket.
Mr. Musk, can I ask a question?
Well, if I may sort of just going for the President's comments, at a high level, you say, well, what are the two ingredients that are really necessary in order to cut the budget deficit in half from $2 trillion to $1 trillion? And it's really two things: competence and caring. And if you add competence and caring, you'll cut the budget deficit in half. And I fully expect to be scrutinized and get a daily proctology exam, basically. Might as well just camp out there. So it's not like I think I can get away with something. I'll be scrutinized nonstop. But with the support of the President, we can cut the budget deficit in half from $2 trillion to $1, and then with deregulation, because there's a lot of sort of regulations that don't ultimately serve the public good. We need to free the builders of America to build. And if we do that, that means I think we can get the economic growth to be maybe 3-4%, maybe 5%. And that means if you can get $1 trillion of economic growth and you can cut the budget deficit by $1 trillion, between now and next year, there is no inflation. There's no inflation in 26. And if the government is not borrowing as much, it means that interest costs decline. So everyone's, the mortgage, their car payment, their credit card bills, anything, their student debt, the monthly payments drop. That's a fantastic scenario. for the average American. I mean, imagine they're going down the grocery aisle and the prices from one year to the next are the same, and their mortgage.
Oh yeah, it just
dropped.
I mean, okay. Damn those billionaires. I guess they aren't real people. Okay, Shelley.
How great is that for the average American?
We had no idea. We had no idea we were going to find this much, and it's open. It's not like complicated.
I mean, if you have something of value to add to this, like if there's something that you see that is controversial about this, or that is a valid criticism, bring it on. Like let's have a conversation. But I see no caring by a billion. So because someone's a billionaire, they can't care that that our government is spending way too much and we're cutting basic goodwill program. I mean, what programs have we cut that is a goodwill program? I mean, you basically are just spouting. Yeah. So you're basically just coming from from an illogical, emotional point, and I mean, okay, that's cool. Congratulations. Keep up with that. If you want, if obviously that you think that this is a good line to use to get people persuaded to see your way, is to call them names, call them liars, and say that they're going to cut all the great programs that the government does. That keep up with that. So I haven't seen you call anybody a Nazi yet. That's probably your next step. So keep going with that. That's totally persuasive. It gets so many people on your side immediately. They're like, oh yeah, exactly. Follow that person.
It's not
simple stuff. It's like
a lot of work. Yeah.
You can't believe it. A lot of work.
But I appreciate
a lot of
the
smart
comment.
people involved.
I do.
Very, very smart people. But you're talking about anywhere, maybe $500 billion. It's crazy the kind of numbers you're talking about. Normally when you're looking at something,
I don't see how this is controversial. Now, I don't see how cutting. I mean, we've talked about having to cut the budget, but for years, but nobody actually puts any part of it into play. It's all just talk. It's all been just talk for decades. That's all it's been. So somebody actually comes in, tries to do something, and
you're looking for 1 out of 100. Here,
crazy.
You're almost reversing it. You look for one that's good.
Yeah.
And you can look at the title and you say, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? And the public gets it. The public gets it. You've seen the polls. The public is saying, why are we paying all this money? This for years, this has gone on.
President Trump,
Yeah, go ahead. Wait, go ahead.
Senator Rand Paul today said that DOGE cuts will ultimately need a vote in Congress. Do you agree with that? Is that the plan?
I really don't know. I know this. We're finding tremendous fraud and tremendous abuse. If I need a vote of Congress to find fraud and abuse, it's fine with me. I think we'll get the vote, although there'll be some people that wouldn't vote. And how could a judge want to hold us back from finding all of this fraud and finding all of this incompetence? Why would that happen? Why would even Congress want to do that? Now, Congress, if we do need a vote, I think we'd get a very easy vote because we have a track record now. We've already found billions of dollars of abuse, incompetence, and corruption. A lot of corruption.
If a judge does block one of your policies, part of your agenda, will you abide by that ruling? Will you comply?
Well, I always abide by the courts, and then I'll have to appeal it. But then what he's done is he slowed down the momentum, and it gives crooked people more time to cover up the books. You know, if a person's crooked and they get caught, other people see that, and all of a sudden it becomes harder later on. So, yeah, the answer is I always abide by the courts, always abide by them, and will appeal. But appeals take a long time, and I would hope that a judge, if you go into a judge and you show him, here's a corrupt situation, we have a check to be sent, but we found it to be corrupt. Do you want us to send this corrupt check to a person, or do you want us not to give it and give it back to the taxpayer? I would hope a judge would say, don't send it, give it back to the taxpayer.
Yeah, if I can add to that, what we're finding is that a bunch of the fraud is not even going to Americans. So I think we can all agree that if there's going to be fraud, it should at least go to Americans. But a bunch of the fraud rings that are operating in the United States and taking advantage of the federal government, especially in the entitlements programs, are actually foreign fraud rings. They're operating in other countries and actually exporting money to other countries. We should stop that. And this is big numbers. Talking about $100 to $200 billion a year.
Sure.
Serious money.
Mr. Musk, you said on X that an example of the fraud that you have cited was $50 million of condoms was sent to Gaza. But after fact-check this, apparently Gaza in Mozambique, and the program was to protect them against HIV. So can you correct the statements? It wasn't sent to Hamas, actually. It was sent to Mozambique, which makes sense why condoms was sent there.
Yeah.
And how can we make sure that all the statements that you said were correct, so we can trust what you say?
Well, first of all, some of the things that I say will be incorrect and should be corrected. So nobody's going to bat 1,000. I mean, we will make mistakes, but we'll act quickly to correct any mistakes. I'm not sure we should be sending $50 million worth of condoms to anywhere, frankly. I'm not sure that's something Americans would be really excited about. And that is really an enormous number of condoms, if you think about it. If it went to Mozambique instead of Gaza, I'm like, okay, that's not as bad, but still, why are we doing that?
Mr. Musk, can you talk a little bit about how closely you're working with agency heads as you're directing these cuts? Do they have how much input do agency heads have when you're making these decisions?
Yeah, we work closely with the agency heads, there are sort of checks in place. So it's not us just going in and doing things willy-nilly. It's in partnership with the agency heads, and I check frequently with the president to make sure that this is what the president wants to have happen. So we talk almost every day, and I double check things to make sure, is this something, Mr. President, you want us to do this? Then we'll do it.
USAID has been one of your main targets. Are you concerned at all that some of the cuts or that shutting that agency altogether may lead to diseases or other bigger problems starting in other countries that then come to the United States? Yeah, so that's an interesting example. So that's something where we work closely with the State Department and Secretary Rubio. And we have, for example, turned on funding for Ebola prevention and for HIV prevention. Left that, you said?
Yes, correct. And
see, and some of that is what you don't hear, right? We only hear about the cutting. We're not hearing about what programs are staying, what programs that the State Department is saying, yes, that is a good use of taxpayer funds. There's no way to cut out all foreign aid. There's no way that we should. We should absolutely not stop spending overseas. We do have to. There is such a thing as called soft power, that money is the main driver of that. We would be in a race with China with their road and belt program that they offer to a lot of countries. And they spend probably more than we do overseas. But what we've been doing with our foreign aid is we're tying it to different other processes and other things that don't actually go with the mission, like the DEI stuff, or just any of that we're making our foreign aid dependent on other programs. Countries implementing other programs that you know, our administration has wanted to see. Plus the fact that the USAID was used, you know, money from them is used basically in every time we've tried to, you know, change out a regime, we've used a USAID and the money from them to make that regime change happen. So it happens every single year. So yeah, time for some checks and balances.
We are moving fast, so we will make mistakes, but we'll also fix the mistakes very quickly. So
Do you see it as a worthy cause, USAID?
I think that there's some worthy things, but overall, if you say what is the bang for the buck, I would say it was not very good. And there was far too much of what USAID was doing was influencing elections in ways that I think were dubious. And
yes, because foreign interference in elections is like the worst thing that you could ever have possible. That's what we've been told for, the last 8 years, 12 years, however long it's been, that foreign interference in other elections is horrible. But that's what we do every time. We always have an influence, even in allies, even with elections in allied countries or first world countries. We're influencing some of we're trying to have influence in their elections. So yeah, we just don't have a lot of leg to stand on when we criticize other countries trying to have influence. Everybody's trying to influence each other all the time. That's people spy on us, we spy on them. There's propaganda pointed towards us. We do propaganda. I mean, it's, and that's why, we do need a robust, I mean, as crazy as this sounds, we need a robust central intelligence agency to protect us from foreign interference and foreign spies. I mean, it's something we need, but it's just been perverted over since 2001. It's crazy.
Do not stand the light of day.
I can just ask a follow-up to the Pentagon contracts. If you have received billions of dollars in contracts from the Pentagon, and the president's directing you to look into the Department of Defense, is that
we
a
definitely need
conflict
to
of
do
interest?
and are going to do at the president's request.
Does that present a conflict of interest for you?
No, because you'd have to look at the individual contract and say, first of all, I'm not the one, filing the contract. It's people at SpaceX or someone who will be putting for the contract. And I'd like to say, if you see any contract where where it was awarded to SpaceX and it wasn't by far the best value for money for the taxpayer, let me know, because every one of them was.
The president said the other day that you might look at treasuries. Could you explain that a little bit? What kind of fraud, and that question goes to both of you, what kind of fraud are you expecting to see or do you see right now in U.S. treasuries?
Yeah, I think you mean the Treasury Department as opposed to Treasury bills, or.
You also referenced treasuries on Air Force One the other night.
Go ahead. Well, as I mentioned earlier, really the first order of business is to make sure we're actually collecting. Sorry for this. I thought my son might enjoy this, but he's sticking his fingers in my ears and stuff. So it's a bit hard to hear sometimes. Hey, stop that. No, the stuff we're doing with.
Now that's funny. He's like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna jam my thumb in your ear. Oh, what a card.
The Treasury Department is so basic that you can't believe it doesn't exist already. So for example, like I mentioned, just making sure that when a payment goes out, it has to have a payment categorization code. It's like, what type of payment is this? You can't just leave the field blank. Currently, many payments, the field is left blank. And you have to describe what's the payment for, some basic rationalization. That also is left blank. So this is why, the Pentagon, when's the last time the Pentagon passed an audit? I mean, a decade ago, maybe? Ever? Really? And we want to, just in order to actually pass audits, you have to have financial information that allows you to trace the payments. and once in a while, the Treasury has to pause payments if it thinks the payment is going to a fraudulent organization. Like, if a company or an organization is on a do not pay list, we should not pay it. I'm sure you would agree. It's like,
If a company is on a do not pay list, we probably should not pay it. I fail to see the controversy here. I do. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me. I don't know.
Quite hard to get on that payment, the do not pay list. It means that this is someone that is just, it's like dead people, terrorists, known fraudsters, that kind of thing. We should not pay them. But currently we do, which is crazy. We should stop that.
Many transactions. And by the way, hundreds, thousands of transactions like that. You know, we have a big team. And for the sake of the country, I hope that the person that's in charge and the other people that report to me that are in charge are allowed to do the right thing, namely make sure everything's honest, legitimate, and competent. But we're looking at just, when you look at USAID, that's one. We're going to look at the military. We're going to look at education. They're much bigger areas. But the USAID is really corrupt. I'll tell you, it's corrupt. It's incompetent, and it's really corrupt. And I can't imagine a judge saying, well, it may be corrupt, but you don't have the right. You got elected to look over the country and to, as we say, make America great again, but you don't have the right to go and look and see whether or not things are right that they're paying or that things are honest that they're paying. And nobody can even believe this. Other people, law professors, they've been saying, how can you take that person's right away? You're supposed to be running the country, but we're not allowed to look at who they're paying it to and what they're paying. We have massive amounts of fraud that we caught. I think we probably caught way over a lot of billions of dollars already in, 2 weeks?
Yes.
And it's going to go to numbers that you're not going to believe. And much, as I said, much is incompetence and much is dishonesty. We have to catch it. And the only way we're going to catch it is to look for it. And if a judge is going to say you're not allowed to look for it, that's pretty sad for our country. I don't understand how it could even work.
We all know that good enough for government work is a joke that a lot of people say. So we know that there is a lot of cleaning up, a ton of cleaning up that the government needs. And it's happening and people can't believe that it's happening. It's so crazy. We're almost done. We got a couple minutes left.
Can you personally guarantee that
which one?
The buyout program, the offer to federal workers, can you personally guarantee that the workers who opt in to resign now will be paid through September?
They'll get their money, but they're getting a good deal. They're getting a big buyout. And what we're trying to do is reduce government. We have too many people. We have office space. It's occupied by 4%. Nobody's showing up to work because they were told not to. And then Biden gave them a 5-year pass, some of them, 48,000 of them, gave them a 5-year pass, that for 5 years you don't have to show up to work. And let me tell you, this is largely, much of this stuff is because of Biden. It's his fault. He allowed this country, what he did on our border. What he did on our border is almost not as bad as what he did with all of these contracts that have come out. It's a very sad day when we look at it. I can't even believe it. But many contracts just extend, and they just keep extending, and there was nobody there to correct it.
Yeah, that is a huge point. It is a huge point of what a lot of this comes down to is just even Reagan said it back in the day that a government program never ceases. It never goes away. It seems like it's in perpetuity. The one of the funniest things was the helium reserve. We don't have it anymore. So that was one program that was finally taken away, was the U.S. helium reserve. But we had a helium reserve up until, let's see, which we actually still have a bit of it, but we had it until like the 80s, I think it was, or the 90s, because we needed the helium in case we went to war and our Zeppelins were needed to fight the air war. So, and finally, they finalized the sale in 2022 to get rid of it. It was actually shut down. Yeah, the government sales flooded the market with cheap helium back in 2013. So, for 50 years, we had a helium reserve in case we needed to go to war and use our Zeppelins. That's an example of a government program that just never stops. It's, yeah.
And that cannot be, I can't imagine that could be held up by the court. Any court that would say that the president or his representatives, like Secretary of the Treasury, Secretary of State, whatever, doesn't have the right to go over their books and make sure everything's honest. I mean, how can you have a country? You can't have anything that way. You can't have a business that way. You can't have a country that way. Hey, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
All right. Yep. Keep kicking them out.
Marc Fogel will be at the White House tonight at about 10 o'clock. If you want to come over, you can say hello to him.
Did you guys get anything in return?
Not much. No, they were very nice. We were treated very nicely by Russia, actually. I hope that's the beginning of the relationship where we can end that war and millions of people can stop it.
All right, so that's the end of that press conference. All right, so we watched that entire thing, right? We watched that entire press conference. Oh, look at my little wiggly wobblies there, coming in and out. What is going on? Oh, that's what. Hang on. I'm like, why am I getting crazy little wobbly things on my green screen? Okay. We watched that entire press conference. Okay. Lots of good information in there. Lots of talk about what they're doing, why they're doing it, you know, what the process is. A lot of good information. Okay. So now we switch to the mainstream media narrative. Okay, here we go. This is the CNN narrative. Musk holds Oval Office press conference with mostly quiet Trump.
Who was the one standing, taking most of the questions, having the president in this odd, jarring setting, looking.
Was there anything odd or jarring about what we just witnessed? Did you get any kind of feeling that anybody was that there was any awkwardness to that whole thing? So, but here you go. Here's the narrative. So watch. Anybody that talks about this is going to pick this up, and the narrative is going to be that Musk took all the questions, that Trump is going to get annoyed, that because he can't share the spotlight.
Up to him, well, it was Elon. This was Musk's first press conference since Trump's election, and he took over. Trump literally, in all these images, kind of looked like Trump's election. Up to him, well, it was Elon. This was Musk's first press conference since Trump's election, and he took over. Trump literally, in all these images, kind of looked like he'd been pushed off to the side because Elon.
There's your narrative, folks, right there. There's your narrative. There is the sculpting of a mainstream media narrative. We watched it. We watched the entire 30 minutes of this press conference just now. But this is
was the center of it. At times Trump seemed annoyed. It wasn't just that Musk dominated.
Annoyed. Did you see any time that there was any annoyance during that press conference. I didn't pick it up. I did not pick up any awkwardness. I picked up Trump actually pushing Elon to talk more, right? I mean,
He did speak for about 20 of the 32 minutes. So about 63.5%, if you're counting of the time. It was that Musk physically owned the entire event. He and his child were the center of the attention. Who was the one standing, taking most?
So I don't, and I think that I think there was one other example of that, probably MSNBC. Let me see if I can find it or not. Where you get the same narrative, the same exact thing. Oh, of course I can't find it now. Let's see. But yeah, that is the beginning of the narrative. And it's why is that? It's to push. It's to cause friction. That's exactly what it's made for. That narrative right there of, well, Trump was annoyed and, you know, he was pushed aside and there's no way he's going to be able. That is there to create tension, which is crazy. I mean, it's just, yeah. I was hoping I could find that too. Darn it. It was but that was quite the press conference. I mean, it is an odd thing. It is a very odd thing to have someone, you know, such as Elon take such a big role. And I think a lot of people are you know, surprised or whatever. It's definitely new. It's definitely different. It's definitely, you know, you know, out of the ordinary. But I mean, if it's working, so far they're on a roll. There's a couple good. Here's a good. This is a good kind of back. I don't know why there's music, but this is kind of a neat seeing behind the scenes. So this is kind of behind the scenes of that. You can see all the microphones, all the news folks, all the reporters. You know, and that's what the scrum looks like every time you see this in the Oval Office. This is kind of, yeah, no, it's made, that's that headline, that quick little blast that you just saw from the CNN anchor is for people that did not watch the entire news conference, is what it is. This is for people that are catching the headlines now.
Kind of looked like
Let's
he'd
go
been pushed
back.
off to the side. Who was the one standing?
This is for people who didn't watch the entire 30 minutes.
Jarring setting, looking up to him. Well, it was Elon. This was Musk's first press conference since Trump's election, and he took over. Trump literally, in all these images, kind of looked like he'd been pushed off to the side because Elon was the center of it. I mean, at times, Trump seemed annoyed. I mean, it wasn't just that Musk dominated. He did speak for about 20 of the 32 minutes. So about 63.5%, if you're counting of the time. It was that Musk physically owned the entire event. He and his child were the center of the attention. Who was the one standing?
Which is kind of like, I mean, that was the point of it. They even asked Trump the other day, when is Musk going to give a press conference? So he gives a press conference, just so happens to be in the Oval Office next to the president. But I mean, why exactly is, why did we need that? It's just, yeah. But you see, that's the crafting of a narrative. So I'm curious to see how that gets, how far that goes. I guess we'll see. I kind of want to, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch some of the other headlines. Let's see if we can just do a Google search real quick. Elon Musk press conference. Let's just see what the headlines are right now. Okay. And this is just a quick Google search. Elon Musk press conference. Watch Trump makes appearance with Musk. Elon Musk defends government. Elon Musk defends controversial DOGE work. Elon Musk's son steals show by mimicking his dad during presser. Yeah, no, exactly. See, so far, not too bad of a bunch of headlines talking about it. So the Mirror is, of course, Elon Musk's bizarre Oval Office press conference as he stands. Okay, there we go. There it is right there, folks. Took us to page 2, but we found it. The Mirror, Elon Musk's bizarre Oval Office press conference as he stands beside Trump in power play. Okay, and the Mirror US, panicking Elon Musk take. Okay, so panicking Elon Musk takes questions in Oval Office beside Donald Trump in bizarre power play. Can you describe any of that as panicking? That's an interesting take. And, obviously the Mirror is a UK. Let's see. I keep seeing this little green thing pop up. Oh, this link is safe. Oh, thank you. Thank you, McAfee, that this link is safe. Elon Musk's bizarre Oval press conference as he stands beside Donald Trump in power play. Yeah, that's the headline. That's what they want you to see. No thanks. I do not need notifications from the Mirror. In a peculiar joint press conference with Elon Musk made his first appearance alongside President Trump. Musk seemed to challenge the essence of American democracy. I did not see that either. Musk was president of the Oval Office for the signing of an executive order. So, okay. Yeah, I don't care. I've lost interest already in this thing. Okay, so Daily Express, Elon Musk power play, standing with son behind Trump in bizarre Oval Office moment. I didn't find it bizarre. Angry Grimes knocks Musk for using their son in live press. Okay, whatever. So yeah, mom's not mad, upset, but so you see, so it's starting to creep in there. Anyway, rattled Trump angrily turns away from Elon Musk's nose-picking prop son in odd moment. A kid picked his. Oh my good God! Okay, it's the Mirror again. Never mind. You can just ignore pretty much anything the Mirror says because they're just clowning themselves right now. Okay, so what else did we see? We saw in that news conference about the federal retirement system. So I found a couple of articles here. First one is from 2014. This is March 28th of 2014. This is roll call. So this is actually this is a totally news from the government, about the government, for the government. Congress will allow government retirement system to stay in the cave age. I mean, even the headline right there. So 2019 or 2014. There's a nickname for news reports so provocative that readers are compelled to give them a literal shout out. They're called Hey Martha stories, as in, hey Martha, come read over my shoulder. You're not going to believe this. Just Such a Doozy dominated Washington Post front page on March 23rd. It detailed how the government processes federal worker retirement forms entirely by hand, almost exclusively on paper, and always deep inside an old mine in rural Western Pennsylvania. So this is we're coming up on 10 years ago for this article. In the current tight budget climate, and given that combating federal retiree hardships isn't a political important cause for many lawmakers, Congress will not be spending what it takes to automate or digitize the process. So no money for digitizing, bringing this into the new world here. We're going to stay in the cave. Okay, so that's 2014. This right here is 2019. Same thing. The Office of Personnel. Let's blow it up a little bit so you guys can see that. The Office of Personnel Management receives over 100,000 federal retirement applications each year, but the time it takes to process these applications can often be delayed. In fact, between 2014 and 2017, OPM did not meet its goal of processing most applications within 60 days. OPM managed federal retirement system, which covers more than 2.4 million active employees. Almost 32% of the federal employees who are on board at the end of F-17 would be eligible to retire in the next 5 years. When employees are ready to retire, right? I mean, that's, like I said, that headline or that whole thing was made for people that did not watch the press conference. That was made just to put in the narrative and get it going in the press. That's all that was. So over several decades, OPM has attempted to move away from paper-based function and replace an antiquated information systems. However, the agency has experienced numerous challenges and has a history of undertaking modernizations projects that didn't yield the intended outcomes. So why the delay between 2014? OPM didn't meet its goal because they have to rely on paper applications. So yeah, develop a retirement IT modernization plan, probably a good step. Develop implement policies for assessing staffing strategies intended to improve processing times, and determine if there are cost-effective ways to make the retirement application error report more user-friendly. Oh, yeah, because if you are processing all of your retirement system on paper, there are going to be mistakes. Any kind of manual system where all you have is paper and people writing on paper and doing math, doing math on paper, you are definitely going to have mistakes. There's just no way around not having mistakes. So, yeah, I just, hopefully we can figure out a way to get, I mean, a little bit of digital thing. I don't know. I was wondering what. Michael had talked about joining us tonight, but he was in fact working until 4:30 this morning. So cut him a little bit of a break then. So, all right. What else we got here? So, yeah, I guess Anderson Cooper, it had a little bit of a, I haven't seen this yet. So let's watch this together because this might be kind of funny. And this is more CNN a little bit later on in the day, I guess. This is Anderson Cooper with.
Yes, he's giving, but he's not actually giving any evidence of that. It's all going to come because what they also said was, if we have to go to Congress, we'll go to Congress. Right, but we'll show where it is. Some of the details that have come out, like the $59 million spent on luxury hotels, it's actually not. Talking about the FEMA money that was abused for migrants. That was. Yeah. FEMA money for migrants, that's okay now? No, I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying it's okay. Don't put words in my mouth. So would you stop that? Would you stop that process? Don't be a dick. Yes, he's giving. But he's not actually.
Yeah, what were you going to say about? I mean, they took $59 million from FEMA and sent it to New York. What?
Talking about the FEMA money that was abused for spent on luxury hotels. It's actually not. Talking about the FEMA money that was abused for migrants. That was. Yeah. FEMA money for migrants, that's okay now? No, I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying it's okay. Don't put words in my mouth. So would you stop that? Would you stop that?
I think what he was going to try to say was it was not luxury hotels, it was actually shitty hotels. Well, that wasn't actually a luxury hotel, so it's a technicality, right? It's like a technicality. That's not they weren't staying in luxury hotels, they were staying in a horrible hotel with that was 100% full and they charged 100% rate. So, yeah, I think we would have an issue with that. So, it's every day something new. Let's see. I had some other stuff saved. What else do I got saved here? Oh, what do we got? We do have a dog. There we go. New dog has entered the fray today. We have, this is kind of funny. So you got David Hogg, DNC Vice Chair David Hogg had something to say about one of the DOGE guys. So we have this story that says the 19-year-old nicknamed Big Balls, who Elon Musk gave access to the Social Security payment system, has now also been given a job as a senior advisor at the United States State Department. He has access to sensitive information, blah, 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 blah. So, this guy actually at 19 years old is pretty successful so far. But of course, David Hogg's got to get his dig in there. Surely he got there purely on merit. And then David Hogg attempted to get wrecked because he ended up going to Harvard with scores that were like the 25% lower than, like the bottom 25% of what you would have to get into Harvard. So a lot of people took a little umbrage at that. So that was kind of funny. X is just a fun place. It's just kind of crazy. And then, all right, so I saw this late. I'm going to do this one more, and then I'm going to go get some dinner. But, you know, this isn't the federal government, but this is the, you know, this is just kind of an example of government just being government. So we have here, Los Angeles Unified School District was given $77 million taxpayer dollars to create new arts program and hire teachers. Guess how many programs were created and teachers hired? If your answer wasn't 0, you haven't been paying attention. So what?
How much did LAUSD get?
$77 million.
$77 million. And how much of that went to new teachers?
Is this, you can tell this is a 0, right?
Dr. Dre, Jimmy Iovine, Quincy Jones, and Barbara Streisand were all part of a coalition of more than 1 million people who helped former LAUSD Superintendent Austin Butner try to reverse declining arts education through a new state law.
On a bill to be passed that's going to change the lives of all your peers in this city.
The change would come from Proposition 28. And it passed overwhelmingly across California by 70% here in Los Angeles County.
$1 billion more for arts and music education.
Now there's nearly $1 billion in additional art funding for all schools, with a larger portion promised to underserved communities and a full 80% specifically earmarked to hire new art teachers. After LAUSD got the largest arts funding check in the state, parents began noticing a problem.
The district was not doing what they were intended to do with the money.
You don't believe the money was coming to your school?
Absolutely.
For the arts program?
Absolutely.
Did you see more teachers at your school?
No.
Did you see more programs?
No.
Did you see more arts in general?
No.
And what did you think about that?
I was furious.
Former Superintendent Austin Butner and these heads of LAUSD's largest unions say 0 teachers means 0 real growth in arts education, the very reason he wrote, and they...
Now, I love how they used, I don't know what that was supposed to be, but that was kind of a, using like way out of tune playing from a school band. That's kind of funny, actually.
LAUSD's largest union say 0 teachers means 0 real growth in arts education.
Like, look how bad this is. Look how bad these kids are. Your money didn't do anything.
The very reason he wrote, and they backed the law.
So money leads to teacher, leads to instruction and engagement for kids.
And
that's how it should go, yes.
That is missing from school.
Those teachers.
Those teachers.
It's a loss of opportunity. That loss has now led to this lawsuit from parents like Vicky Martinez and from former Superintendent Butner himself. Not only against Los Angeles Unified, but against the current superintendent, Alberto Carvalho, saying they defrauded the state of California and its taxpayers over millions of dollars in funding that was not used to hire new art teachers, and that hundreds of thousands of students have been harmed.
You think they're breaking the law?
100%.
You think they're breaking the law?
Absolutely.
And you think they're breaking the law?
Oh, yes.
Is the school district failing these kids?
Yes.
Yes.
The district's own data they claim in their lawsuit proves that almost no new teachers were hired. The majority of zeros listed in the final column here for some elementary schools.
So, and part of this is, the big reason is, if you look at, there's an LA Times story today. From the get-go, Butner, who's part of this lawsuit, who wrote and financed the proposition, was concerned that some school systems would use the new arts money to pay for existing arts programs, leaving students no better off than before. For that reason, the law forbids maintaining old funding levels with new money. So you can't pay for, you have to use this for additional art programs. You can't pay for old programs with this money. So I think that's one of the big reasons for the lawsuit. So, okay, let's go back to this. All right, here we go.
shows little or no change in teacher hours year over year.
They should have hired more than 1,000 teachers.
Did they hire any?
Few, if any.
Before filing
$77 million. LA got $77 million just for the 2022-2023. I mean, this is 1 year funding.
suit, they sent a letter to the governor and state leaders last May, claiming that this violates the law. And by June, the Los Angeles Unified School Board itself was demanding answers, telling Superintendent Carvalho, "We must be able to show the public that we are complying with funding regulations."
Parent groups, schools, arts teachers, every single time I'm getting these calls and complaints that it's not happening like it should be happening at the schools.
Notwithstanding the letter of the law, we decided to lean on the intent.
Carvalho fully responded in August, saying after Prop 28, 100 new teachers were hired and contracted in art, dance, music, and theater, representing a 2% increase from the prior year.
I think it's not true. There are some blatant inaccuracies in there.
Carvalho also added, though, the district prioritized the use of Prop 28 funds to cover existing staff as well as hire new staff.
Yeah, he says they use the money they use the money to pay existing staff.
And you believe that's illegal?
The law says you may not use the money in plain language.
And the money, they believe, was illegally redirected to other things, like to increase senior staff salaries, claiming they're paying.
There you go. That's exactly what I was expecting to hear.
It has increased fivefold since 2010, while student enrollment has plunged.
They want to make sure the money that's supposed to go to the schools which serve their children gets.
Yeah, so just one more example of government being government. We have more eye cleaning going on here. Goofy dogs. So, all right. Well, that was fun. I enjoyed watching that press conference. I enjoyed seeing it's so amazing the difference between when you watch something for itself and then you see the narrative that forms around it. I mean, how different it is from reality and you know how they try to manipulate. I mean, it's crazy. So, all right, well, I guess we'll see. I'll be back on Thursday. We're going to see what transpires between now and then, because it is something every single day. We get a new fun, happy time. So maybe we'll talk about, we keep hearing the constitutional, we're in a constitutional crisis. So I want to dig into more of that later on this week. So on Thursday, we'll kind of look at how we would be in a constitutional crisis. So, okay. Thank you for hanging out. I appreciate it. I'm going to go and get some dinner, hang out with the dogs and cat. So, all right. Thanks for hanging out. I will see you on Thursday. Peace.